Welcome to Please Me, the award-winning bilingual sexuality podcast bringing you bold conversations and big clit energy. I'm thrilled to announce that Please Me is the #1 ranked sexuality podcast in the USA and worldwide. I'm Eve, your host, on a journey from trauma to sexual liberation. Join me and my guests as we dive into conversations around orgasm equality, self-love, body positivity, and essential sex education. Let's reclaim pleasure and close the orgasm gap, one empowering conversation at a time. Last week on Please Me podcast, I spoke with Sam Itzhaki, also known as Mr. Get Bigger Now, about natural male enhancement and sexual wellness without invasive procedures, because size does matter. He joined the show to discuss the Lady Pump for women looking to enhance blood flow, and an endurance trainer for the men who want to last longer in the bedroom. If you haven't listened yet, be sure to go back and check out that episode. In today's episode, I welcome Brent Dowlen for a conversation about healthy masculinity, men's mental health, and the crisis many men face in today's digital world. Brent shares how he has created a space for men to tune in, reflect, and reconnect. It's an important episode, and I hope you enjoy his expertise. This season, I'm returning to the original format with weekly podcast episodes, plus the continuation of the fan favorite roleplay segment at the end of every episode. Always fun, always spicy, and not to be missed. Early access drops every Monday on Patreon, with public releases every Wednesday on all major podcast platforms, so set your alarms. Want to ask a question for the Please Me podcast? Join the conversation on Patreon or subscribe to my Substack newsletter for exclusive content, behind-the-scenes updates, and opportunities to have your questions featured on the show. You can also join the Please Me Health Collective on SDC.com, the world's premier ethically non-monogamous platform for swingers, polyfolks, and more. Use code 37340 for a free trial membership and access to my growing community, including my free monthly webinars. Please Me is for mature audiences, so sit back, relax, and surrender to the pleasure of Please Me.
At the point you start taking it serious is day one, right? Because it's honestly like, use it as a divining rod, right? If something isn't functioning right, you should take that under advice right away, right? I looked at what happened in my situation and went, I'm missing something. Something's off, right? There was a lot of shame and embarrassment. My wife was a godsend in the situation. She was so supportive and understanding.
Ladies, whether you are just starting your menopause journey or well into it and have questions about hormone replacement therapy, you're not alone. Many women experience vaginal dryness, decreased sensitivity, and urinary incontinence, like leaking when you sneeze, laugh, or exercise. These symptoms can be frustrating and limiting, but they are also very treatable. I experienced this myself and decided to try Parlor Game's topical estrogen and progesterone creams. Within 1 month of consistent use, my incontinence completely resolved. Topical estrogen helps restore tissue health, improve sensitivity, and support bladder control, while topical progesterone supports hormonal balance. If you are ready to stop suffering in silence, check the show notes for the link to Silky Peach, the topical estrogen cream, and Vibrant Third, the topical progesterone cream. I feel relieved and confident again, and I know you can too. I love wearing a bra, said no one ever. If you're tired of discomfort and want a great bra alternative, I highly recommend Cakes. I gave up bras during COVID and searched everywhere for something better, and Cakes is the best solution I've found. They offer adhesive, non-adhesive, and push-up options that give a seamless look under your clothes without straps or discomfort. If you're tired of racing to your car to pull your bra off at the end of the day, it's time to get your Cakes. I haven't looked back, and I know you won't regret it. Check the show notes for the link. Hello, and welcome to Please Me, the podcast that aims to destigmatize conversations about sex and sexual health by turning the sheets into our classroom. Today, I'm so excited to welcome Brent Dowlen to the show. He is the host of the Driven to Thrive broadcast. He is a relationship and personal development coach, a speaker, a podcaster, and a podcast producer. He helps men become intentional husbands, fathers, and leaders instead of living on autopilot. And he helps men choose responsibility on purpose. So with all of that being said, I want to welcome you to Please Me, Brent. How are you today?
I'm really excited, Eve. I'm doing great. It's going to be a good day.
It is going to be a good day, and we're going to have an awesome conversation. And before I move on, I want everybody to know all of the rest of your podcasts, because you have a multitude of podcasts. And so I want everybody to know where to look, when they're in. There might be something that really, speaks to one person more than another. So tell us all of your shows.
Absolutely. So you mentioned the Driven Thrive broadcast, which is a focus on relationships and personal development for men. And Dad Hat Shenanigans podcast is just unfiltered conversations for dads. We deal with the ups, the downs, the things that we're not told not to say, like there are days I don't like my kids, stuff like that, as well as the joy of being a father.
Never say that to the kids.
Right. I have my podcast, the Read Me a Story Dad podcast, is a passion project. I just read books to children online. It shows up more on YouTube than on the podcasting side, but it's on both. And it's just I feel a responsibility. There are kids who don't get books read to them, and it's so good for them. So it's something that we fund out of pocket and do. And then I have Behind Closed Mics, which is a intimate look. It's behind a Patreon wall on my Patreon. And it's an intimate look at just the life I live as a creator, a coach, a dad, and a husband, trying to hold this crazy life together. Because as you know, Eve, the life of a creator is well, it's a thing. And then we actually just launched 2 weeks ago a local news show for my local community called Good Morning Quincy, Washington. And it's 10 minutes every morning, Monday through Friday. I have it out by 5:30 in the morning. And it is just a good old-fashioned news show. Nothing national, nothing state. It is just our local community, because there was a deep need for it. On average, any given event in a town, less than 5% of the population knows about it. So we're trying to fix that, but it takes 2 hours to aggregate 10 minutes worth of news every night. So that's
I believe it. I believe it. I think that's such a great offering for your town. Because like you said, only 5% of people will know about the events that are happening in their town. And that has happened to me so many times in my town. I live in a horse community, and it took me years to find out that the horse dancing, the dressage, was actually on Friday nights. I was always like thinking it was another day. And so it took me years to figure out that event is on Friday nights, not on any other night. And so I can plan it on only that night. So just block out that time for myself. So I think it's such a great thing to have a local podcast for your town. So great job with all of those things. And it seems like you are extremely busy, because having multiple podcasts is a lot of work. I know I just have one, and I am constantly scrambling to get things done for the following week. So listen, more power to you. I'm impressed.
I just fell in love with the medium one day. I started doing it and I just fell in love with it. And yeah, it's 17-hour days, 7 days a week usually.
Wow. You see, so this is the life of a creator. And if you want to have multiple podcasts, you will be working 17 hours. That makes sense to me. That really does, because I work many hours on this show every single day. And, I pay out of pocket for it. It's self-funded. It's an independent podcast, and it's a lot of work, and I enjoy it so much. It is a passion of mine. However, it does take lots and lots of time. And so kudos to you for doing all of those wonderful things and reading to children. I mean, I just think that's such a beautiful thing. As a dad, and as a parent, it really is important to read to your children. It really helps them to develop in so many different ways. And we're not going to get into that, because we're going to be talking about sex today. So, so let's shift gears here. And I want to ask you your first question. So a lot of men tie their sexual performance directly to their identity as men. And when something goes wrong, like erectile dysfunction or premature ejaculation, or even, not able to perform, right? Not being able to get it up, or your stamina has diminished. What actually happens below the surface? Like, what are people thinking about in those circumstances?
It's really so men are explicitly taught that our performance is not just like addressing our masculinity in the bedroom, but like we're taught that is a core component of our existence. Like being able to perform as a man is equal to our self-worth. It's who we are. It's part of our identity. It's part of our professionalism. It's part of our like everything. And it's funny because there aren't many things that are tied that deeply to our identity, but you can have a super successful man and you start having struggles in the bedroom, whether it's low stamina or ED, premature ejaculation, doesn't matter, right? Um, you start having issues in the bedroom, and it doesn't matter how successful you are, automatically there's something wrong with you in your head. Like it amplifies massively because it is such a deep threat to our identity, right? If I can't do this, what does that say about who I am? Like, am I even still a man? Am I like, there's if you're straight, the automatic thought is like, am I becoming gay? Like, you automatically start assuming that something broke inside of you. And on top of that, like, you start this deep seated shame because we're taught that it is so core to a component to us being a man that like the shame just jumps into your brain. And you want to like, add bad to worse. The shame a guy feels automatically just compounds everything. I mean, there are a lot of things, as a therapist, there are a lot of things that can cause problems for men in the bedroom, right? High stress, bad diet, overweight, right? Bad cardiovascular health, poor sleep. There are so many things that can affect a man in the bedroom, but the immediate red light for a man is, oh my God, I'm broken. Am I even a man anymore? Right? So we automatically are just shamed. It's like, oh my God, we failed in life. We just take us out, put us to pasture now. We're done. Right? And then our nervous system is just constantly jumps into that just I don't even know how to put it in words, right? It stops being a joy because now we're afraid of it. Now we're afraid that like one moment just turns sex into a nightmare for us. Because now anytime intimacy is even approached, you're terrified. Like, what if that happens again? Oh my God, can I even do this? Is it possible? And it just keeps your nervous system firing, right? And that constant, you know, I gotta survive. It's survival, right? It's no longer joyful. It's no longer something intimate. It's not something that you share between people who care, right? It's this terrifying thing. And it only takes once to just start to completely unravel us, right? But then that shame compounds, the stress compounds, the fear, and it's just making everything even worse, right? Performing when your brain is doing all that is just like, no, not going to happen. And I mean, it can happen, like I said, for the silliest thing, right? I've had temporary erectile dysfunction, and it was just from sheer exhaustion from, like I said, 17-hour days, right?
And that'll do it. Yeah.
I've had times where I wasn't getting good sleep anyway. I have a lot of sinus problems. And so, like, breathing at night is complicated for me anyway. And so, between long days and poor sleep, right? I had some opportunity with my wife, right? We're often on different schedules. And so, we got to grab the opportunity when it presents. And I just couldn't maintain an erection. And I'm like terrified. Like, my brain just starts short circuiting immediately. Like, it's like, oh my God, I'm broke. Someone just take me out and shoot me. I'm done. Right. Life is over. I give up. It's over. Right. And honest to goodness, it was sleep. Like,
it was sleep.
I took some sinus medication. I got some nose strips to try and open my nose more. I took some herbal tea to help clear me up, and put a pillow so I could get a little more upright, like a slight angle on my sleep. And I turned off my alarms and I slept deeply, and I hadn't in weeks, and I was fine. But I mean, that fear, honestly, like the next time my wife and I started approaching intimacy, like the back of my mind, like there's just this panic alarm going off in my head. It's like, what if it wasn't a glitch? What if it wasn't
Right.
just you're tired, right? And it is almost the biggest fear you can dump on a man. I'd say the only thing that even comes close, honestly, is the fear of as a father, right? We live in an innate fear of just our father, of our children, something happening to our children outside of our control,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
But honestly, like having whatever reason happens come up during intimacy and you can't perform is probably the second biggest fear for most men.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I so appreciate your honesty and your willingness to share your own personal experience on the show. I really do appreciate that, and I don't take it for granted. And I just want to go back and talk a couple of things about things that you mentioned. So
Yeah.
shame comes up, right? And I always like to say that there is no shame in having any kind of sexual health condition, right? Whether it be ED, PE, or the multitude of female ones that we're not going to get into today, right? And so, and there's also no shame in having an STI. STIs are like having a cold, having the flu. It's also a common thing that can happen. You should try and avoid getting sick, obviously. And I talk a lot about that because I consider myself the face of safe sex. So we talk a lot about safety on this show. However, I want people to enjoy their sex lives and understand that there is absolutely no shame in having an STI or any other sexual health condition. So if that is you out there and you do have something going on, remember that there is treatment and help available. At what point? So I appreciate that you had brought that up, and then you also mentioned, what is there something wrong with me? Did I suddenly like become gay? And again, being gay, there's like nothing wrong with being gay. I just want to like clarify that to my listeners. And you may think differently, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with being gay. So I just want to put that out there as well.
Well, let me
So
clarify. I wasn't trying to throw shade, right? It's just the automatic male brain response is like, did something drastically change, right? That's as drastic as a response as you're going to give
that
as
would
a
be drastic because going from
right,
heterosexual to homosexual would be
right.
a very drastic thing.
So yeah, sorry if that was a poor example. I wasn't trying to throw shade.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to clarify because I, have won an LGBTQ plus award for being, a place and a safe space for every gender, and I too am part of the LGBTQ community. I'm bisexual, and so I always want to make sure that my people out there that are listening that are in that community too feel comfortable and safe here. So I want to talk about men and issues with men, and at what point do you feel like men experiencing some sort of issue like you experienced, at what point should they go from just thinking that it's like a stress reaction or a one-off to actually taking it seriously and reaching out to their provider? Like what advice do you give men out there, if they're experiencing something like this?
I'm not a huge fan of the medical community of Lisa Lake with my own personal experiences. Now, let me be very clear. I know there are some amazing medical professionals out there. I have friends who are doctors and nurses, and I love them and I respect them. I have just not had really great experiences with my medical providers in my local area. And I think that has a lot to do with the local area, to be honest. Um, but I actually reach into a different direction, right? But at the point you start taking it serious is day one, right? Because it's honestly like I hate to say it, but you use it as a divining rod, right? If something isn't functioning right, you should take that into you should take that under advice right away, right? I looked at what happened in my situation and went, I'm missing something. Something's off, right? Yes, there was a lot of, like I said, shame and embarrassment. My wife was a godsend in the situation. She was so supportive and understanding. And she was the first one to go, baby, you aren't sleeping. You aren't, like, 2 and 2 ain't making 4 in your life right now. And so I think you should take it serious right away. And not necessarily going as far as seeking medical advice, but it's an immediate weather vane to say, hey, something's not right. Right. I'm under too much stress, or I'm not getting enough sleep. Maybe I'm not taking enough care of myself physically. Right. I'm not eating a healthy, nutritious diet. Right. I'm eating a bunch of junk right now, or I'm overworking right now, or maybe I'm starting to put on too much weight that's not healthy for my body right now. Right. My immediate thought is always something's off, because if I didn't have a problem last time and now I have a problem, because I know there are a lot of things that can impact how I perform, right? Being dehydrated, my God, being too dehydrated can short
That's
circuit.
huge too, because you need blood flow, right?
Hydration is so important, and the majority of Americans are dehydrated most of the time. I can't speak much about the rest of the world, but I know statistically the majority of Americans are already dehydrated 80% of the time, like 70, 80% of the time. If you feel thirsty, you're already dehydrated.
That's right.
Most Americans do not consume enough water. And to support proper circulation in your body, then you absolutely have to be drinking enough water. And I'm a huge coffee guy, guys. And but I also have on my desk a water bottle, and I go through multiple water bottles a day, because I understand my body doesn't function so well. I don't sleep as well if I'm dehydrated, right? Digestive health is off if I'm dehydrated. So I take that automatically as a red flag. Something is off in my world. I'm not paying proper attention to self care, right? And that's where I start. If I can't, now, if I look at myself and go, no, I've been drinking, enough water, and I have a background as a personal trainer, so I have a pretty good dial in on nutrition, exercise, water. So if I can look at myself objectively and go, yes, I'm getting a solid 7 hours of sleep a night, I'm drinking enough water, then yeah, I'm going to go start talking to somebody who has more knowledge than me on that for sure. But I start with me, because 9 times out of 10, you're just short circuiting yourself somewhere in there. You're carrying too much of a load that you don't know is happening. Stress is incredibly powerful.
Really is.
For men, I know personally, for men, like, stress alone is such a problem for a lot of men that's a lot of times where they first start seeing any kind of sexual dysfunction. It
Yeah.
has to do with high stress. They're worried about paying bills. They're worried about their job. They're worried about their wife. They're worried about their kids. They're worried about everything. Men are consummate worriers. We try and pretend we're not, but we are consummate warriors. We're worrying about everything we got to do. And that's usually the first place you start to have problems, because that manifests physically very quickly.
I agree with you. And I can't even tell you how many patients I have come to me and they're already in the severe stages of erectile dysfunction. And why didn't they address this years ago when it's first started? So, as soon as you start to have an issue, you should reassess your life like you did. Hey, I'm not getting enough sleep. Let's do that. Let's see if that fixes the issue. I'm not drinking enough water, which, by the way, you should drink half of your body weight in ounces every single day. You should receive 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. Those are the things that I recommend to my clients. So absolutely all of those things. And then nutrition plays a huge role. Obviously, you mentioned that 80% of health is nutrition. So if you're eating, very high fat, fatty meals, if you're not getting enough fruits and vegetables in your body to have a healthy endothelium, which is the lining of your blood vessels, you might have some blockages that can cause erectile dysfunction as well. So making sure you eat lots of fruits and vegetables is essential. And so I appreciate that you said right away, right away. And I agree. Like, if I had a sexual issue, I would want it addressed immediately, because I enjoy my sex life and I want it to be functioning at optimal level on every single day of every single year for the rest of my life. And so I think that it's a good idea and a good point to address it immediately, because maybe it's just you need more sleep. right? Maybe it's just you need more water intake. Maybe it's just changing your diet a bit so that you can get more nutrition into your body so that it can heal faster, right? And so all of those things are so essential. And so I love that you said immediately, and I agree with you. Immediately is what I would do too.
Can I chime in here
Yes,
even
absolutely.
touch on something you said?
Mm-hmm.
Healthy fats are important, especially for a male diet.
100%.
And so I wanted to clarify, you said, overly fatty, and I agree when it comes to unhealthy fats. But
Yes.
men particularly need healthy fats and more protein for sexual performance.
Yes.
Zinc
Yes.
zinc is very important for men and sexual health, and magnesium. And so, guys, you've got to make sure you're eating enough healthy proteins to support that. Just taking the vitamins doesn't necessarily help, but you need to make sure that your nutrition that you're eating is actual nutrition,
Whole
because
foods.
most
Mm-hmm.
people are not getting that, right? We
Yes.
we eat so much on the go food. It's so horrible.
The
Um,
average American eats 1.5 fruits and vegetables a day, and we're supposed to eat 10. For women, it's a little bit less. For men, it's a little bit more, but I like to say 10 because it rounds everything off nicely. But 10 fruits and vegetables, and the serving is the size of your fist. So if you're only getting 2, 4, 6, you're still very deficient in your nutrition. You need 10 fruits and vegetables a day. And so I love to talk about a product that I recommend called Juice Plus, and I'll make sure that I put that in the show notes today because it really does help to bridge the gap between what you are eating and what you should be eating. And it gives you the nutrition of 30 fruits and vegetables in your body every single day. And you mentioned vitamins. Vitamins have maybe 50 to 55 nutrients, and an apple has thousands. So if you're getting nutrition from fruits and vegetables, you're getting literally thousands of nutrients that your body needs to stay healthy. So absolutely, I will definitely link that in the show notes. And I appreciate you mentioning good fats because, you know, most people who have a heart attack have it after a fatty meal, right? But I'm not talking about avocados, right? Avocados are healthy fats, right? And olive oil or, any of the other like nice healthy oils that you can have. I'm talking about like a burger and fries, right? Or something that is not healthy for you that you're eating and it's a very heavy fat laden meal. And most heart attacks happen after a heavy fat laden meal. So I wasn't talking about healthy fats when I mentioned a fatty diet. I was talking about unhealthy fats. So I will clarify that as well. And I want to talk about medications, right? Because a lot of people will like hear about Cialis, Viagra, or the generic forms, and they just want a quick fix. Everybody just wants to be better immediately, right? So, what are some of the foundational habits that actually protect our sexual health in the long term? And we've kind of been touching upon that now, but you can kind of lay it all out,
yeah, no, I'd love to. Like I said, I have a background in personal training,
right?
especially in strength training, and I actually prefer to work with people who are overcoming an injury. Usually, it's my ideal clients, and we dive into all this. And these are the first things that you want to check, period, because there we've already covered. There's so much that impacts man's ability to perform, right? As we call it, which is right off the bat. Let's say that's the wrong ideal, guys. If that's the way your brain is framing it, you need to reframe it. You're not performing. You're showing up and connecting with another person, right? We need to get this whole performance thing out of our head, and that's one of the things that men has been told all along. Oh, you got to perform. It's really, you're actually hurting yourself right there. So let's change our mindset about that. But let's dive into it, right? You already said we need 7 to 9 hours sleep, and that can vary greatly depending on the person. I found I function best at about 7 hours of sleep. 8 hours is a like I feel like a brand new person. It's like, woo! I don't do that
Yes.
very
When I get
often.
8 hours of sleep, I wake up and I'm like, yes, I slept that long. I can't believe it.
I can function for long periods of time at 6, but I can tell you things start to suffer. But each person's going to be a little bit different on that.
Right.
And then an optimal diet, right?
Hmm.
Now, you and I have some differences of opinion on optimal diet, so I won't go deep down that rabbit hole. Um, but an optimal diet for what is actually feeding your body the nutrition you need to support your health. And one of the things that people don't think about when they're eating is their hormonal health. A lot of what you eat has a great deal of influence on your hormonal health. And let's face it, if you're getting most of your food going through the deli at the gas station, which I spent large portions of my life being in that crowd as a construction worker, or going through fast food joints, you're not just hurting your weight, right? We all go, oh yeah, that's a quick way to put on some extra weight. But actually you're disrupting your hormonal health at that same time. Your body cannot function because those things are not going to give you your optimal nutrition for hormonal balance and health. Uh, you know, there's a point where you have to stop eating like a child. We all like our yummy treats, but there's a point where you got to stop eating as a child. And guys, I'll tell you right offhand, at 30, that's the hard line. Like your body will start to change at 25. By the time you hit 30, if you keep eating like a child, your genetic blessings go away. It will all catch up, and it will catch up rapidly. So find your nutrition, consult your doctor, talk to your doctor, include them on your nutrition plan so that you know, because there's a whole line of schooling in being optimal nutrition, right? That's why it's a profession. So consult with your doctor. That's a great idea on that. You need to take some kind of exercise. You need to get into some kind of exercise. Now, depending on where you are, if you're starting out from a negative space where you feel like you're already carrying too much weight or unhealthy because you haven't been taking care of yourself, that will look different than someone who's a gymaholic. And that's okay. That's allowed. Not everybody is at the same place. You start from where you are, but you have to start adding cardio health. I'm a meathead, guys. I love to work out. I'm a hardcore weights guy. I have strongman implements littering my backyard. My backyard is a gym. I have thousands of pounds worth of weight out there. I love strongman training. And so I have a ridiculous amount of weight there. But I've been going to the gym since I was 11 years old. My dad got me going to the gym. And even working at a desk, I got up to a really big dude for a long time. Horrible about cardio. Well, guess what? The first time I started having a little trouble in the bedroom was a wake-up call on the whole cardio thing. Because if you can't breathe during the act, guess what? You're going to run problems. You do not want to have problems crossing that finish line because you're out of air. Talk about an awkward situation. And there are a lot of us who are not taking care of our cardio health. Now, I'm a big believer in, I think you should do some kind of resistance training as well. For men, hormonally, that's going to be really important to maintain your testosterone levels, to retain that muscle mass. There are a lot of diseases related to men specifically that have to do with testosterone levels dropping, which start at 35. And so for your optimal health, you should be doing some resistance training. You don't have to go meat-headed out and move absurd amounts of weight. You don't have to do that, but you do have to do some kind of resistance training besides some cardiovascular training. Your nutrition, like I cannot emphasize that. You can't outwork your nutrition in your sleep. I didn't think anything about sleep for a long time. Like I was that guy who barely slept. I was an insomniac in high school. Investing in a quality bed was a life-changing event for me. Like I did not know, like I was just ignorant on the fact. I did not know that sleep affected everything. And you'd think, duh, right? That should be obvious to most people. But for a lot of us, that's an enlightening moment in life when you realize you can't sleep like you did when you were in high school and get away with 2 to 3 hours of sleep. But you also have to find a way, like men specifically need to get your stress under control. Find a hobby. Men don't have hobbies anymore. It's actually crushing men and they don't even realize it. My parents' age group, like all men had hobbies. And if you think of like iconic characters in your favorite movies or TV shows, right? Men, they have hobbies. right? They all do something. They woodwork, they climb, they hike, they work out, they work on cars, they do something. Men actually need a hobby. And it can be any number of things. The more physical, the better. But for stress management, for optimal stress management, men need a hobby. We need to be creating something and doing something with our hands 30 minutes a day, like bare minimal 30 minutes a day. Experts recommend 10 hours a week. I don't know anybody who's got that much extra time, but 30 minutes a day, guys, like serious game changer on your stress management. And if you can get the stress under control, your relationships, your sexual health, everything's going to function a whole lot better. And guys are missing that. That's why they're dropping like flies. That's why we have a men's mental health epidemic going on in our country, because men aren't being taught to do something to manage their stress. That comes into your overall health. That comes into your sexual health. That invades your relationship, because if you're bringing that stress into your relationship with your partner, you guys aren't in a place for intimacy. Even if you have a chance for physical intimacy, like if you're not in a headspace for it. Now, men don't have to be as emotionally in a headspace for it as women do generally, but I hate to play to generalizations like that, but we don't. Just on holistically, we don't. But you still need to feel a connection, because women often need sex. Well, sorry, let me replay it. Women need sex after they feel the connection. They need a connection with someone first. Men need sex with their partners to feel connected to their partners. And so if you're not taking care of that stress, you're not only disrupting your sexual health, part of it is you're disrupting that connection, and you're not going to feel connection because you're just not going to move into that place of intimacy. And so, I mean, there's, sorry, that was kind of a rambling answer, but
no, you covered a lot. And I definitely want to dive a little bit deeper into the men's mental health crisis, right? That you mentioned. I definitely feel like I hear a lot about it. As a woman, I don't feel it so much because, I'm not a man, obviously. But I do think that it's something that, I've heard a lot about. And I hear also a lot about men having not just a mental health issue or mental health issues, but also loneliness. So I would love for you to touch upon those things, because I hear a lot about those things out in the universe of Instagram and all of the other socials, and I'm always constantly hearing about these issues that men are having with their mental health and with loneliness, like a loneliness epidemic, and it's a problem.
It's a major problem, and it really comes down to having an identity at this point in the world, right? All things change. So I'm let me preface this by saying I'm not against change. Things change, right? That is the
It's a given, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Dead things don't change. That's it. Well, and taxes just always suck, but everything changes. But the world has changed radically, but the playbook we give men hasn't changed in over 100 years. Probably a lot longer than that. I can't say how long. I can tell you this actually dates back to coming home from World War II specifically, that we start to see this trend with men. Because men came back from war and the world had moved on without them, right? The women who stayed at home had to change their lives and their roles because all the men were off at war during that time period historically. And so that is where we see a change in the way the household works, right? Women weren't staying at home and just raising their kids. Women were going and working at factories. Women were working all kinds of jobs because the men who normally did them were off at war, right? And men came back, and not all the women wanted to go back to the way it was. That's fine. I got no problem with that. I got 2 daughters. Got no problem with that. Right. But all of a sudden, it kind of upended hundreds, if not 1,000 years of the way life worked. Right. The playbook had been men go to work, men make money, and they come home. The wife nurtures the family, but your job is preside, protect, provide. That's it, and procreate. And that changed radically. Well, okay, so that's been an evolving change. Here we jump into 2026, right? There are a lot of women who make more than a lot of men. Women are graduating from college not only more often, but with better grades most of the time, right? We're
At
seeing
higher rates than men. Yes, absolutely.
right in high-powered places like as CEOs and stuff like that. Like I said, I have 2 daughters. I'm down with it. Tell me they can't do something, I'm going to punch you in the face. It's not going to go well. Right? So I live in this interesting world of working with men, but at the same time, I'm surrounded by women in my life. And so the problem is we've drastically changed the way the playbook worked for men for generations, but we didn't give us a good new playbook. Like there's no change. Men today are still taught, we go to school, we get out of school, we get a job, we have a family, we go to work and we provide for our family. That's our job. That's it. There's no more playbook than that. Like that is what men are told. Go to school, go to work, get a job, make money for your family. That is your responsibility. That's being a man. That's it. That's the end of the playbook. And
yes, things have changed for sure.
That doesn't reflect society anymore. And so men are struggling with an identity crisis right now because most of what we were told our whole existence, that's not accurate anymore. That isn't what our world looks like. That doesn't even reflect it. And so we're struggling with this giant identity crisis now of where do we fit? Because society says, no, things have changed, but a large portion of society still reinforces that old concept, right? If men aren't providing, they're worthless. It doesn't matter if our spouse is equally yoked and has as good of an education or maybe better and makes as much money or not. We're still told if we're not providing, we have no value. Well, most of us don't live in a place where we have to fight off bears or any other, or like, rambling invaders. So that whole protection thing, not really our thing as much anymore, right? The benefits of testosterone and being physically larger and stronger. Well, that's not really serving our needs these days. And so men actually live in this weird limbo now because we're told to be more sensitive. We're told to be more vulnerable. But if we do, society automatically jumps on us and tells us we're not masculine, or tells us that we're oversharing and we're just whiners now. They don't actually want to hear about it. When man has problems and stress, the world doesn't want to hear about it. And so we're trying to figure out where we belong. We're trying to figure out where we fit as men because this is the only playbook we were ever given. But it doesn't work. It's not the way society works. And now we're trying to carry all this weight because that's the one thing we know we're good at. We are built differently to carry more stress. Men actually just physiologically carry more stress better. It doesn't mean that women aren't under a lot of stress. Like the physiological makeup of men, our brains, the way they're sorted, actually just carry it more effectively. We can carry more before it breaks us. Like I said, women are under a large amount of stress too. I'm not ever diminishing that. I'm surrounded by women, but physiologically made to carry the stress better. It's just a difference in the way the wiring our brain works. But it weighs on men, and men take on more and more, right? So many men take on more responsibility and more responsibility. And, oh, can you take care? Oh, yeah, I'll take care of that, right? Because we're told to be responsible. And we start carrying all this weight, but no one actually cares about how it affects us. And no one's asking or even recognizing it's just expected. You have to carry this. Okay. Well, it's hard to carry this. Shut up. Stop whining. Like that is the response. And it's the same response, not just from other men, but from women who tell us to be more vulnerable. And so men are going, I don't get it. We're getting two signals here. On the one hand, you're telling me to be vulnerable and honest and open. And on the other hand, I'm judged hard and told to shut up if I do. because you aren't attracted to me if I'm whiny or too vulnerable, right? And so we're stuck in this limbo, and now we're carrying it. And most modern therapy is based on the way a woman's brain works. I've sat down with several psychiatrists on my shows over the years now, and we've talked about this at length because modern techniques for therapy most of the time are actually geared towards the way a woman's brain works because there are differences, right? I know some people want to say that there's not, but it's just a wiring. There is a difference in the way our brain processes things. And so traditional therapy is often not very effective for men because it taps into a different way than our brain actually works. It's modeled on the way women generally process things. Men don't want to talk about it. We don't want to get vulnerable. We don't want to get face to face. We don't want to have deep conversations. And so, like, I've been to therapy when I was like 20. I was in the military. I've been to a therapist. I threatened my therapist. I didn't go back to the therapist. Like,
It wasn't a good experience.
yeah. I went through 3 different therapists before they actually found one that I actually connected with.
Okay.
And his solution was, yeah, life's been crap. So what do you want to talk about? Well, I know you don't want to talk about this. What do you want to talk about? Well, I like this. Okay, let's talk about that. Right. The couple I tried to talk to me initially, man, they wanted to go deep into the emotional space on it. And why are you doing? Why? And it's like, I was highly combative. I was in a very aggressive training program. It was not a good fit for me at the time, right? And that's my experience with it. I know some people who've had very successful therapy, but I've worked with several psychiatrists who are like, yeah, no, we're looking at new ways to work with men because we're finding out this is just not, it's not bad. It's just not optimized to work with men in that way, right? And so, yeah, we're in this crazy headspace, and no one's giving us an answer. You get to the internet and it's polarizing. You have extremes on both sides. There's no middle ground. There's no this works. It's one extreme or the other, right? I hate the guys out there doing the whole red pill thing. It is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. The whole men going their own way and just using women for sex and then, not getting relationships. It's just the most appalling nonsense I've ever heard. It's such a knee-jerk reaction to extreme feminism. And I do mean extreme, right? Because that's the problem. This is always the extreme people fighting on the internet. And that's for most guys what we see.
Yeah, we definitely need to come to the middle, right? And to a middle ground. And I love that you mentioned that you too had gone to therapy. You didn't have much success with it, but you continued looking for the right practitioner and you did find somebody that was a good fit for you. So definitely, if you are experiencing mental health issues out there, reaching out to, it doesn't necessarily have to be, a quote unquote therapist, right? It could be a coach. Coaches are really great at helping as well, to work on certain issues that you're having and to grow in a lot of different ways emotionally. So definitely, I think that you brought up a whole bunch of really great points there. But I definitely agree with you that that therapy can be a great adjunct to your mental health, but you do need to absolutely find the right person that's going to help you, and that you're going to feel comfortable opening up to. Because if you are trying to get to that emotional place, right? It's not going to happen on day one where, like you said, the therapist was just trying to dive deep, like from the get go. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Let me build some trust here. Let me be able to have some rapport and make sure that I feel comfortable and confident in sharing those things with you. And it doesn't just happen automatically. If a man is out there listening and they want to take one responsible step towards improving their sexual health, what would you recommend in terms of taking that one step? Not a drastic overhaul, just that one step to better sexual health. Where would you start?
I think you have to start by being honest, right? And that may seem like a cop out, but you have to start at being honest, because a lot of us just aren't honest with ourselves. We like to tell ourselves platitudes, right? Like, I'm only a little overweight. Oh, I take good care of myself, right? We have to stop and be honest, right? If you look down with your shirt off as a guy and your belly is making it where you can't see other parts of you, probably a little heavier than you should be, right? And stop telling yourself, I'm only a little heavy, because what you see on the outside is not near as bad as what you see on the inside usually, right? Visceral fat is a lot worse around your organs, and that is compromising your health in a massive way, right? If you get winded walking out to get your mail, time to be honest with yourself, because if you can't breathe, then intimacy is going to be a struggle for you, right? So we have to start with honesty, because most of us, I don't, I sound really demeaning when I say things because I'm not good at sugarcoating things. But as a society, we've gotten really soft with ourselves. We've given ourselves excuses for everything. We've given ourselves permission to not take care of ourselves, to be unhealthy, to not get the rest we need. And we justify it in the name of being busy and being convenient. And life's busy. That's just part of life. That happens. Everybody gets old. Everybody gets tired. Everybody gets out of weight. You know, Joe Gold was still benching 225 pounds at 80 years old, right? Like there is a longevity to taking care of your health. There are people who are having healthy, intimate relationships with their partners well into the 70s and 80s and probably beyond that.
And
I don't
beyond.
know,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. I mean, that is what I want for all my listeners, and so, and for myself.
And to do that, we got to start with being honest with ourselves about
Mm-hmm.
how good of quality we're taking care of ourselves. If we're not doing those things we've already talked about, right, then we're not doing ourselves any favor. So measure one baseline. Start at one place, because it can be super overwhelming, guys. Okay, I'm 46 years old. I've broken my spine twice. I've cracked my skull. I've got a laundry list of injuries. I have done the damage. I understand life happens. I understand you get hurt. I understand you get busy. Like I said, I work 17-hour days, 7 days a week. I understand all the excuses because I have made all of them. Like, absolutely made all of them. It's winter right now. My gym is outside and it's freezing temperatures right now. Right now, my hands would freeze to my barbells if I went outside. But I've let that excuse get me into the holiday rut, and I put on some weight that I should not be carrying, that I normally don't carry. And so I am sitting at a heavier weight than I should, unhealthier than I should be. And it's starting to affect my body, and I know it, right? I've made all the excuses that you are making to yourself. So pick one, because it snowballs really quick and it feels like you're out of hand and it's out of control and you can't take care of it. Pick one. Pick one. It's easy.
Yeah.
Pick the easiest one. Start with your sleep quality.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure, go to bed at the same time every night, get up at the same time every day. Set a rhythm for yourself. Make sure your sheets are cleaned, your pillowcases and your sheets are washed at least twice a week, right? Start with good sleep health. It's the easiest thing because you don't have to change anything else about your life except setting a bedtime and a get up time. But start with one thing that is absolutely in control and fix that one thing first and just make it a habit. After that, once that becomes normal, right, go to the next thing. You don't need a dietitian. Don't eat like a child, right? Start there. Don't eat like a child. You know what you shouldn't eat. All of us adults, we get barraged with stuff online all the time. You know what you should not be eating. You know you shouldn't eat that gas station burrito and that corn dog for breakfast. That's not a healthy breakfast, and we all know it. You don't need a professional to tell you that, right? One simple incremental step. Start there and start to take back control of your sexual health by taking control of taking care of yourself. That's the best.
I love that. I love that. I love that answer. Honesty, really looking internally, looking at yourself and really pinpointing the things that you have issues with. Some people may get great sleep, but they, struggle with another area of their health. So absolutely looking at yourself and understanding what changes you can make to have more optimal health. And really when you have more optimal health, you're going to have more optimal sexual health as well. It all goes hand in hand. And, you mentioned endurance multiple times and being able to breathe. Absolutely. Cardiovascular exercise is something that we all need to do. And if you can't get to the end because you are out of breath and you need to hold on, honey, let me take a break. I like out of breath. No, like you want to be able to complete the whole experience, right? And that's not to say that you can't like take a breather and do something else in the meantime, right? And pleasure your partner in a different way, or she pleasure you in a different way. That's fine. But as we get older, our bodies change, and so our endurance is going to change and our strength is going to change as we get older. But trying to maintain those strength and endurance, the quality of those things as we get older, is essential to have an amazing sex life. So I want to jump into our role play. So we already know what we're going to do. And so do you have any questions before we get started?
No, I think I'm on point with this one. We're good.
Okay. So, all right. So we'll just go ahead and jump on in. All right, here we go. And action. If you've ever wished sex could feel more connected, more intense, or honestly just more fun, you need to check out Shameless Care. They're a telemedicine company built entirely around sexual health, real doctors, real prescriptions, and products that actually work. Like Shameless Chemistry, their oxytocin plus tadalafil blend that deepens connection and boosts arousal. Or Shamelessly Aroused, a topical cream with the active ingredient found in men's ED medication, increasing blood flow exactly where it counts. Every order includes a short video introduction from your doctor, transparent pricing, and no subscriptions ever. Just real, sex-positive healthcare that delivers results. Because you're a Please Me listener, you can use coupon code PLEASEME for $15 off your order of any product on the Shameless Care website. Use the code PLEASEME, that's PLEASEME, at checkout to claim your $15 off. Again, that's shamelesscare.com, code PLEASEME. Because great sex shouldn't be complicated. It should be shameless. This episode is sponsored by Shameless Care. Hi, honey.
Hi, hon. Hey, I just had this crazy idea the other day.
Okay.
I want to spice things up a little bit.
Oh.
Behind closed doors. I want to take a. How do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't know. I'm like starting to blush. What are you talking about? You never talk to me about these things, honey. Like, what exactly are you talking about spicing things up? What do you have in mind? Like, what do you want to do?
You know, and you're right. I'm sorry I haven't talked to you more about this. I feel a little awkward asking, um, but I was thinking maybe we could like try some new stuff. Maybe I don't know. I had this kind of, don't make fun of me, okay? I have this like weird kind of fantasy. I want to see what it's like when you take control and I feel a little helpless. Maybe like a blindfold or something, like, or maybe tie my hands. Is that a little much or?
Wow, this is a surprise because you've never mentioned this before. And yeah, I actually I experienced being blindfolded in the past. You remember you did it to me once before, twice, and I actually really liked it because it heightened my sensation, and it really helped me to hone in on all of the feelings that I was having in my body. And so I really enjoyed it. So there's really no reason why you wouldn't also enjoy it as well. So I would be willing to try a blindfold. I think that that would be actually kind of fun. Um, what do you mean about being tied up? Like, what exactly are you talking about? Like, what are you envisioning? Because you mentioned a fantasy, and I would love to know what your fantasy is.
Oh, I keep seeing those the jokes online about fuzzy handcuffs, and I was thinking like it feels weird. Like I always feel like I'm in control of things, and I was curious what it felt like to feel like I'm not in control of things. And so I keep seeing these jokes and memes about it, but it's like I've never done that, but it's kind of a like, huh? Right? They do it on those TV shows, right? It's always exciting on those shows. So I thought maybe that might be interesting to try.
Okay, I definitely think we can go invest in some fuzzy handcuffs. And, I personally don't want to be handcuffed. So it's not something that I'm interested in doing, but I certainly would handcuff you and see how you would like that. So yeah, I'm all for trying new things in the bedroom. That sounds interesting. So just out of curiosity, because I feel like we need to explore this a little bit more, what do you want me to do when you're in handcuffs? What are you fantasizing about?
It's weird because I don't know how to say this because I always feel like I have to be in control of everything. So I really just want to feel like I have no control and am just free to experience everything. Like I have no say in what's going on so much. It's just I want to feel like I'm not in control.
Like
And
I'm making the decisions.
yeah, I want you to just run the show and surprise me. I don't want to know what's coming. I don't want to, but I just want to actually be able to let go of all the stress and everything else and just be in the moment and experience that.
Yeah, I get that. I get that because it's nice to just let someone else take the reins and kind of lead the experience. And but since I don't have much experience being the leader, can you give me like three things that you would be open to experiencing during the time that you are handcuffed and have that blindfold on? And do you want your feet tied down too, or your ankles tied down too, or just your hands?
I'm not really sure about tying down more. I don't really know. It's interesting. I don't really know how I'm going to react to the handcuffs, honestly.
Okay,
Um,
so baby steps. We can just start with the
yeah,
handcuffs.
maybe start there, but
Okay.
maybe some teasing, like uh, you know, maybe being a little teasing because I like to perform oral on you, and so maybe we can try that with the blindfold, but then maybe you pull back a little bit, make me work for it a little bit, and uh, just kind of build that desire, um, because the more I do that, I generally get really excited at that point and kind of the brakes come off and right or rush through the experience after that because pretty soon we're back to just wham bam thank you ma'am after that, and I want to try and drag that out a little bit, maybe.
Prolong it.
Yeah, maybe stretch things out a little bit, some different sensations. uh,
Okay. Different sensations, anything specific that you want to experience?
I'm not even, I know some people do like stuff with ice or with different things. I don't know. I don't know what they're different sensations. Like my brain just kind of shuts down and I don't really know where to go with some of those sensations, right? Uh, I get fixated very quickly. And so, with the prolong, maybe there's some teasing with different sensations, maybe a light touch or a cold touch, or I don't know. Well, not in certain areas. No, cold is bad in certain areas. I think maybe we start that. I don't really want to know what to expect.
Okay. I mean, my mind is like racing with ideas in my head, and so I like that you're giving me control of what what I can bring to the experience, and kind of surprising you, and I like that, and I'm gonna take it as a challenge because I definitely think that spicing things up in the bedroom is always good, and it's gonna keep us connected and our relationship connected. So I'm all for it. So definitely have some ideas. And are you interested in like impact? Are you interested in like, you said light touch and you said cold? Maybe would you be open to like spanking or like feathers or maybe like wax or anything like that that would be warm? Are any of those things interesting to you?
The wax could be interesting. I think
Okay, so sensory, like the temperature play is something that you're interested in. Okay.
you gotta forgive me if I laugh though, because like I saw that in a bad movie, so I don't even know if that's a sexy thing or not.
You're allowed to laugh in the bedroom. This is fun time for us, right? So I want you to laugh. I want you to have fun. I want us to giggle and be awkward. I mean, that's all part of the fun. So definitely thank you for, expressing your desires with me. And I feel like we should have these conversations definitely more often.
Thank you for being open to that. It was a little weird to. I feel like I can't bring things up like that sometimes.
Well, I'm just putting it out there right now that you absolutely can and you absolutely should. And we absolutely should be talking about this much more often because I have ideas on my end too. And, maybe I feel a little awkward bringing it up too. But I feel like if we were regularly talking about these things, it wouldn't be so awkward over time.
I like that idea.
Great. Let's do it. and scene. That was good, and that was great that you you were kind of like hesitant, which is absolutely normal. This is exactly how it's going to be if you've never had a conversation with your partner about things that you want to try in the bedroom, right? And I was trying to not jump into my like kink persona and be your girlfriend or your wife or whatever, because I could have said a whole bunch of other things that were giving you ideas. But sensory play is something that you are interested in and being submissive. And as a man, you're like you talked about earlier, society tells you that you need to be dominant, that you need to be the caretaker, the protector, all of those things. And sometimes men need a break from that role, right? And many, many men out there like to submit in the bedroom. And that is it's pretty common. It's really, a lot of times people think it's a sort of a fringe thing. But it is really common, especially for men that are super busy with work, super high power, and they're constantly dealing with making decisions. They want to give up that decision making and let someone else have control. And so it is a common dynamic that I think that more people should talk about. So I appreciate you being so vulnerable and bringing that up on the show.
I think a lot of your listeners would benefit from the fact that a lot of guys wish their partners would initiate more. Like that's just a very common thing. Like I hear from men all the time.
Yes.
There are a
They
lot
want
of
to feel desired, right? They want to feel, and they also want the words of affirmation, right? That
Mm,
make them know that their partner is attracted to them, whatever that may be. That's
yep,
essential too.
absolutely. So it's a very common thing among men I talk to. It's like I wish my wife would initiate a little more, right?
Right.
Like they always feel like they have to start things. So
Right. Absolutely. And being, in that traditional, man is the dominant and woman is the submissive, the woman is not going to really initiate much because she is submissive, right? And so if she's constantly in that role and being taught that that is our societal role, right? And by the way, all those roles need to be thrown out the fucking window. I'm just putting it out there right now, because you determine what your roles are once you reach a relationship and you figure out what works best for the two of you, or more than two, depending on the type of relationship that you have. However, we don't have to go by all of the societal constructs. We can deprogram those things, and we can learn to have, an amazing sex life by having these conversations with our partner, whoever that may be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So with that being said, I want to make sure that my listeners can find you. Where can we find you?
The easiest place to find me is my core website. It's purposedrivenmen.com. I tend to put everything back there except for my new show. There's links to everything off that page. That's home base, because when you have 5 shows and a bunch of other stuff going on, you got to have somewhere to send people, right? I can't give people addresses for everything we do. So
yes, I think that's the best place is just one spot, your website. And do you have your socials on your website as well?
I don't.
Okay.
I'm actually a web designer, and I don't do that. I don't let my clients do that either.
Okay. I normally send my my listeners to my website, pleaseme.online, and if you go to the contacts page, all of my social links are there. You can connect to me on any of the socials that you prefer to be on. I'm not on all of them, but I am on a few of them. And so reach out to me on pleaseme.online. And again, thank you so much for being on the show today, Brent. This was a really fun and enlightening conversation.
Thank you for having me, Eve.
Until next time.
Are you looking for a sexy date? Look no further than SDC.com. SDC.com is the premier ethically non-monogamous website that is worldwide. It also hosts a wealth of information on sexuality and sexual health, and I host a free live webinar monthly on the site. You can use code 37340 for a free trial membership on me, and be sure to reach out on the site and say hello.
I want to personally invite you to join me on Patreon for ad-free listening, bonus episodes, and early releases. Already there is a lot of bonus content on there, with many webinars that I've done in the past and a show that I've never released to the public before. My show is completely self-funded, and when you are able to support me in this way, I'm able to spread my message of body positivity, self-love, and women's empowerment, and empowerment in general around sexuality around the globe. And so with that being said, I appreciate everyone who has already joined Patreon. And if you've thought about joining, now's your nudge to do so.